Hey guys, it is Sloth Reading here, aka Taylor. If you don't know who I am, check out my Instagram, Sloth Reading, and my blog, Sloth Reading. I am back with a kind of like a chit chat about books video. I am going to give you 7 books that seven fantasy books that will help you escape from the current situation, to help you during quarantine, to help you during isolation. I've seen quite a few booktubers doing the books that you should read during isolation, and I thought I would jump in specifically for fantasy books / like sci-fi. I really just love fantasy and I want to share that love with you guys. Let's just jump right in. So the first fantasy book that I'm gonna 100% recommend is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is just a enemy to lovers trope fae fantasy book that I think is a great read for anybody who's a fan of A Quarter Mist and Fury, Throne of Glass, and things like that. This Holly Black is an amazing author, and I feel like if you like a brooding prince and a strong independent woman, this is a great read. There's also 3 books in this series. There's Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and Queen of Nothing. So 3 books to help you through this period, I think, is a really good series. And they're not too thick, and they're kind of pretty like dark and intense at points. I thought it was a nice easy read. Took a little bit to get into. Don't give up straight away. But yeah, I recommend that. The second fantasy book I recommend would be Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. I actually haven't read the second one. I think it's called Divide the Fates or something, but I love this book. I read it when it first came out. It's about Sierra and Akos. I don't know, I can't really remember how I said their names, but it is, I think it's kind of like a dystopian sci-fi fantasy. It's got quite a few genre elements within it. I read it so long ago that I kind of can't remember it, but it was a 5-star read, and I read it I think in 2 sittings, maybe one day but 2 sittings. I don't even remember that. Enemies at birth, allies by choice, together can they defy their fates. It's kind of an enemies to lovers once again, which is obviously my favorite trope. It is really, really good, and if you love the Divergent series, this is by the same author, I think. Yes, but yes, that's my second book that I recommend, 5-star read, and there's 2 in this duology so far. So there's this and Divide the Fates. I have yet to read Divide the Fates, but if you're looking for a mixed genre read, this is a good choice. Third book is a classic. Do I even have to put it in here? 7 books within the series. There's 8 movies to go with it. We have a pop right here and right here of some of the characters. It is Harry Potter. If you don't know what it's about, you have been living under a rock. I recommend this, and if you have seen the movies, read this. The books are so much better. There's so much more quality content within the books that you don't get to see in the movies, which makes the story even more like, you just connect with the story way more. But if you haven't seen anything about it, it follows a boy called Harry who finds out he's a wizard, and just things happen at the wizarding school, and there's just drama, action, magic. The magicking world in this, amazing. But this is obviously my third suggested read. None of this is in order, by the way. I'm just picking up J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. 7 books to keep you occupied within this isolation period, so that's a definite yes from me. The next one is not a 5-star read, unlike the others. This was like a 4-star read, a little bit less, but I did love it. I wouldn't classify it as fantasy as much. It's historical fiction, but to me that kind of goes into the fantasy world. Like, it's made up. Anyway, it's Hunting Prince Dracula by Kerry, I can't ever say her last name, but it's not fantasy, but it's not contemporary, if you know what I mean. So basically these are just non-contemporary fiction reads. I really, really, really liked this. It is the second book within the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I recommend this series 100%. There's 4 books actually. Stalking Jack the Ripper, Hunting Prince Dracula, Escaping from Houdini, and Capturing the Devil, I think it was, not too sure. But they kind of give off fantasy vibes, but it's not fantasy. They are historical fiction about real life tales, but she's twisted them to be like a fantasy version of it. I really, really like these. If you don't like historical fiction and you don't like the way historical fiction is written, you wouldn't like this. Took me a little bit to get into the series, but once I did, I really loved it. I'm actually up to Escaping from Houdini. I've read 100 pages so far, but I put that on pause for other books. But yes, fourth read, 4 stars this series compared to my 5 stars, but I definitely recommend. My 5th book. Okay, so the next 3 books, the last 3 books, I talk about all the time, so please, you're not going to be surprised. But this one is what got me into writing. This is the style and just the story is what got me into writing. And it is Sarah Tulsa's Song of the Current. It wasn't as popular as I thought it would be, but I freaking loved it. 5 stars. This is my 3rd all-time favourite, coming after the 2 books down there that I will show you in a sec. It's like fantasy, but a very unique style of fantasy. It's about Caro. I don't really know how to say her name, but it follows a girl who has to transport some cargo, and it ends up not being what she thinks it is in order to save her dad. Kind of enemies to lovers, but I wouldn't say enemies. It's just like, ugh, to lovers, which obviously I freaking love enemies to lovers. That is my favourite trope. So it follows her and her wanting the river god to choose her. It doesn't happen when she wants it to happen. Like, try not to spoil it, but it's really, really good. I 100% recommend. And the second book, it's Whisper of the Tide. That was also a really good book, but this was 5 stars. The second book was 4 stars, just because obviously the first book's always better. Now we're on to the last 2 books in my 7 books that you should read during isolation thing. These last 2 books are by the same author. I am in love with each series. Is Throne of Glass. I'm currently reading Tower of Dawn. I am 90 pages through. It is amazing. I love Sarah J Maas. She's a queen. I've got the white paperback covers of these, but I really want to get the hard covers like I've gotten for my other series. This series is amazing. It follows Selena Sardothian, who is an assassin, who is independent, strong, sassy woman who doesn't take shit. Basically, I think there's 8 books in the series. I'm not too sure. 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there. Books within this series. And if you're just looking for a high fantasy read with heaps of drama, sad, like you will cry within this series, you will laugh, you will literally melt. This is a perfect series for you in this isolation period. It says fan of Game of Thrones and Hunger Games. If you love both of those, and I think you're gonna love this. There's been a couple issues within this series that people just don't like Sarah J Maas anymore. I have no idea why, but I personally love her. I nearly flew to Melbourne to see her, but then I became broke, so I couldn't do that with my friends, which was really, really, really sad, but oh well. That is the second last book that I 100% recommend. The last one is my most favorite one of all. I love this series, and if you haven't heard me talk about it, then you are living under a rock. I talk about it on my Instagram and my blog all the time. Also by Sarah J Maas. It is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is my all-time favorite book, and the series is my all-time favorite series, and it has been for the 2 years since I've read it. So 2 years standing on top must mean it's pretty good. It is by Sarah J Maas. It's another high fantasy fae novel, obviously different to the Throne of Glass, very different. It follows Feyre. Well, the first book follows Feyre and going into the fairy world. Second book, I freaking love it, is when she fully immerses into the world and like she learns things and just things change. But just read A Court of Thorns and Roses, then you can read this beauty and you'll fall in love. I've got my whole Sarah J Maas dedicated shelf here with my little Harry Pop. I've got candles, bookmarks and everything dedicated to the Queen. I am wanting to actually get the rest of the Throne of Glass hardcovers, but I've just recently saw that in June, the covers for this series is changing and they look ugly. I don't know if that's just my opinion or a bunch of people's opinions, but the new covers are disgusting. They don't match the series. They don't have anything in common with the themes or anything within the series. Like, I think this one's a bright pink book, but I only in the hardcovers have A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Wings and Ruin. I don't have Thorns and Roses or Frost and Starlight in hardcovers yet, but I'm going to need to buy them before June, otherwise they're not going to match. The new covers They're disgusting. I'll put a picture on the page here so you can see. But this is beautiful. This is disgusting. I don't even want to talk about it. But yes, so this is the last and final book in my fantasy non-contemporary 7 books that you should read. Yes, please let me know if you have read any of these. Leave your reviews below if you've reviewed any of these. I'd love to have a look. If you want to review on this series, specifically the Caught in Wings and Ruin book, that is on my blog. Thank you for listening. I hope you stay safe and you find amazing books to read. If you have that isolation TBR, also comment that below. I want to know what you guys are reading. And my reading vlog that is coming up soon also is explaining everything that I'll be reading within this week, so you know what I'm up to too. Thank you. Have a great day. Stay tuned for my next video.